the dawn of direct conflict. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are. For decades, the rivalry between Israel and Iran simmered beneath the surface, often playing out through proxy conflicts and covert operations. However, in June 2025, that dynamic dramatically shifted. What unfolded over a tumultuous 10 days was a rapid, direct escalation that directly involved the United States and pushed the Middle East to the precipice of a full-scale war. In this video, we will unravel the precise sequence of events, covering 6 crucial phases. Israel's preemptive strike, Operation Rising Lion, marking the start of direct confrontation. Iran's immediate retaliation and escalation, as missiles flew in response. The United States intervention, Operation Midnight Hammer, bringing a new dimension to the conflict. Iran's direct retaliation against U.S. and Israel, followed by continued Israeli counterstrikes. International reactions and the plea for de-escalation from around the globe. Finally, President Trump's declaration of peace and what that means for the fragile future of the region. Join us as we explore this critical period, from the first Israeli strike to an unprecedented declaration. Phase 1. Israel's preemptive strike, Operation Rising Lion, June 13, 2025. The direct escalation began on Friday, June 13, 2025. Under the code name Operation Rising Lion, Israel launched its most extensive direct attack on Iran since the 1980s. This offensive marked a significant strategic shift, moving beyond shadow warfare to overt confrontation aimed at neutralizing Iran's core military and nuclear capabilities. Reports indicate that Israeli Air Force aircraft, numbering over 200, executed 5 waves of strikes within the first few hours, deploying more than 330 munitions on approximately 100 targets. The primary targets were highly sensitive. Natanz nuclear facility, a cornerstone of Iran's uranium enrichment program. Initial assessments later revealed significant damage to its above-ground structures, including power infrastructure. Fordow fuel enrichment plant, a heavily fortified site buried deep within a mountain, which was targeted with advanced munitions, indicating a clear intent to incapacitate its operations. Isfahan Nuclear Technology/Research Center, another crucial hub for Iran's nuclear activities. Key military bases. Strikes hit air bases in Hamadan and Tabriz, aimed at crippling Iranian air defense and operational capabilities. Command and control centers. Intelligence suggested strikes on high-level IRGC, Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, command centers, leading to reports of several top military officials and nuclear scientists, including General Gholam Reza Merabi and General Mehdi Rabbani, being killed. This operation represented a profound change in strategy. Israel's message was unequivocal. It would directly confront Iran's nuclear program and military infrastructure, even deep within Iranian borders. Phase 2. Iran's immediate retaliation and escalation, June 13 to 20, 2025. Iran's response was swift and equally unprecedented. Tehran immediately branded Operation Rising Lion an act of war and launched waves of retaliatory missile and drone attacks against Israel. On Sunday, June 15th, explosions rocked Tel Aviv, followed by a second wave impacting the port city of Haifa and the coastal city of Bat Yam. Throughout the week, Iran continued to fire hundreds of ballistic missiles and drones, while Israeli air defenses, including the Iron Dome and other sophisticated systems, intercepted a vast majority. Many projectiles still managed to penetrate. Tragically, these Iranian projectiles resulted in significant civilian casualties. By June 19th, reports confirmed 24 fatalities and over 838 injuries in Israel. Homes were destroyed, infrastructure damaged, and evacuation orders were issued in vulnerable areas. Harrowing accounts emerged, including that of the Peshkarovs, a Ukrainian family seeking cancer treatment in Israel, who tragically lost 5 family members in a single strike on their residence in Petah Tikva. The intensity of these direct exchanges signaled a dangerous new chapter in the long-standing rivalry. Phase 3. The United States intervenes, Operation Midnight Hammer, June 21, 2025. The conflict escalated dramatically when the United States directly intervened. On Saturday, June 21, 2025, President Donald Trump authorized Operation Midnight Hammer, a series of highly synchronized precision strikes on three of Iran's most critical nuclear facilities, Fordow, Natanz, and Isfahan. This operation reportedly involved cutting-edge military assets. B. 2 Spirit stealth bombers. 7 B-2s were reportedly deployed from Whiteman Air Force Base, Missouri, undertaking over 18-hour flights to reach their targets, with some flying diversionary routes. GBU 57 Massive Ordnance Penetrator, MOP, Bunker Buster Bombs. At least 14 of these 30,000-pound bombs, designed to penetrate hundreds of feet of hardened concrete and rock, were utilized, particularly against the deeply buried Fordow facility. Tomahawk cruise missiles. More than 24 Tomahawk land attack cruise missiles were reportedly launched from a U.S. Navy Ohio-class submarine, targeting surface infrastructure at Isfahan. The strikes were publicly declared a spectacular military success by President Trump, who asserted they had completely and totally obliterated Iran's nuclear enrichment capabilities. While Iran acknowledged the strikes, they claimed facilities had been evacuated. However, subsequent satellite imagery and initial battle damage assessments indicated extremely severe damage to all three targeted sites, especially for Fordow and Natanz, with reports suggesting Iran may have attempted to fill in tunnels at Isfahan and Fordow before the strikes. Phase 4. Iran's direct retaliation against U.S. and Israel. Israeli counterstrikes, June 22 to 23, 2025. In response to the U.S. strikes, Iran launched further retaliatory missile attacks. On Monday, June 23, 2025, Iran fired ballistic missiles at the Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar, which hosts the largest U.S. military installation in the Middle East. This attack, codenamed Annunciation of Victory by Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, was reportedly preceded by Iran providing early notice to Qatar. While flares were visible over Doha and explosions heard, Qatari authorities reported successful interceptions, and U.S. officials later confirmed no direct impact on the base and no American casualties. Simultaneously, Israel continued its offensive. Israeli Air Force, IF, strikes persisted across Iran, with reports of targets against base headquarters and other IRGC command centers in Tehran, which Israel described as hitting regime targets and government repression bodies. A controversial strike on Evin Prison in Tehran, a facility notorious for holding political prisoners. Iranian state media aired surveillance footage showing damage to the prison's gate, while human rights groups immediately raised alarms about the safety of prisoners and the legality of targeting such facility. Strikes on various Iranian airports across western, central, and eastern Iran aimed at destroying runways and aircraft to impair the Iranian Air Force's operational capabilities. Reports of hits on roads leading to the Fordow facility, further isolating the damaged site, with some Israeli officials hoping to obstruct Iran's ability to assess damage or move materials. The humanitarian situation in Iran continued to worsen, with human rights groups estimating hundreds of civilian deaths and thousands wounded from Israeli strikes. Tehran saw a mass exodus of its population, and widespread reports emerged of internet blackouts, fuel shortages, and disrupted essential services. Phase 5. International reactions and the plea for de-escalation. As the direct conflict unfolded, the international community reacted with a mixture of alarm, condemnation, and frantic calls for de-escalation. Russia and China were swift and sharp in their condemnation of the U.S. strikes, warning they risked igniting a global conflict. They actively pushed for an immediate ceasefire resolution at the UN Security Council, though without immediate success. The United Nations Secretary-General expressed grave concern, emphasizing that there is no military solution and highlighting the urgent need for diplomacy. European nations voiced deep apprehension, particularly over the stability of the Strait of Hormuz, a vital choke point for global oil supplies. Any disruption there could send severe shockwaves through the global economy. Gulf states, while condemning violations of sovereignty, remain cautious, balancing their concerns with their security reliance on the U.S. Many regional airlines, including those from the UAE, suspended or rerouted flights, impacting air travel across the Middle East. Global markets reacted with volatility, especially oil prices, which surged on fears of supply disruptions, but saw some stabilization after Trump's peace declaration. The world watched on tenterhooks, hoping for an end to the rapidly intensifying hostilities. Phase 6. President Trump declares peace, June 23, 2025. In a dramatic and highly unusual turn of events, on Monday, June 23, 2025, President Donald Trump announced what he termed a declaration of peace. After the Iranian missile strike on Al-Udeid, which he stated Iran gave early notice of, Trump posted on social media. Most importantly, they've gotten all out of their system, and there will hopefully be no further hate. I want to thank Iran for giving us early notice, which made it possible for no lives to be lost and nobody to be injured. He continued, "Congratulations, world, it's time for peace," and urged both Israel and Iran to now proceed to peace and harmony in the region. He also thanked the Qatari Emir for his efforts in seeking peace. This declaration followed a period where Trump had alternately issued threats and urged diplomacy. His statement implied a belief that Iran's retaliatory strikes had served as a catharsis, and that the direct military engagement could now cease. Conclusion: a fragile future and lingering questions. President Trump's declaration of peace has introduced a profound moment of uncertainty. While hostilities appear to have momentarily ceased, the scars of these 10 days run deep. Iran's nuclear ambitions. The full extent of damage to Iran's nuclear program is still being assessed, but the fundamental ambition remains a critical flashpoint. Iran's semi-official Tasnim news agency has reported that a parliamentary committee approved a general plan to suspend cooperation with the International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA, signaling a potential shift in nuclear oversight policy, though Iran also claims to be rebuilding sites. Regional stability. The axis of resistance and other proxy groups remain active, and the broader regional power dynamics are still highly volatile. Humanitarian crisis. The suffering in Iran and Israel from the strikes is real and ongoing, requiring significant humanitarian efforts. Global implications. The economic and geopolitical ripple effects of this conflict will likely be felt for months, if not years. Some analysts suggest that without off-ramps in sight, the conflict might continue as long as Iran's missile stockpile lasts. Whether this marks a genuine turning point towards sustained de-escalation or merely a pause before renewed confrontation remains the most pressing question. The world watches, holding its breath, hoping that this fragile moment of peace can be built upon and that the cycle of violence that has plagued the Middle East might, against all odds, finally find a path towards lasting resolution.